Today on Vintage HLC Show and Tell, we're going to look at the Barbara Jane shape that was made by the Homer Laughlin China Company and several other potteries for the Quaker Oats Company to be given away in boxes of oats. So this is the Barbara Jane shape. It's a round shape with fluted embossing, decorated with this floral center and blue edge line. So the Barbara Jane shape was not a Homer Laughlin product. It was actually developed by Sebring. And I want to focus on this article that was written in 1941 by Lucille Cox. I think I've mentioned her before in previous videos. She was a writer. She wrote for not only the Evening Review, she also wrote for pottery trade journals. She was very knowledgeable in the history of the potteries of the area. So in this one, she's writing about Charles Sebring. And it's entitled, Sebring, a Pioneer in Creative Pottery. And the section I want to focus on talks about the Barbara Jane shape. And she writes, in 1925, Mr. Sebring introduced the Barbara Jane, a new shape which would have created comment under any circumstances. However, it was not the fluted lines nor the beauty of the designs completely new to American dinnerware which set the pottery industry agog. It was the new body of which the ware was made. A warm, creamy body with highlights of radiance unable to find expression in the cold deadness of whiteware. Ivory body, the first major fundamental change in American dinnerware since William Bloor produced his whiteware in 1861. So the ivory body she's talking about is the new ivory glaze that they had developed in 1922 and then introduced to the public in 1923. And when I say ivory, I don't mean old ivory from Fiesta or ivory vellum, those off-white colors. It's actually a bright white ivory glaze. And I talked a little bit about this. I think it's video number 7. I'll put a link in the description for this one of how that was an important change in American dinnerware. And a lot of potteries started copying it. The Edwin M. Knowles was actually the second one to do that. And they were all promoting their ivory wares of the late 1920s and early 1930s. This photocopy shows items made in the Barbara Jane shape and is a rather extensive assortment. So this was introduced, according to the article, in 1925 using the ivory glaze from the 1923. And it was an extensive assortment. We see a candlestick, there's a vase, 2 sizes of teapots. There would have been multiple sizes of platters and bakers and nappies. But Quaker Oats chose small items from this assortment to be given away in boxes of oats. And we see that here in this advertisement. This ran in the Needlecraft magazine, February 1927. You see some pieces up top, 2 sizes of plates, the little fruit cup and teacup and saucer. Let's try not to cast a shadow on that so you can see all the pieces. So Quaker Oats did not like getting their wares from one supplier only. They wanted multiple people involved in case there was a problem with production. A pottery might shut down, the workers might go on strike. Whatever the case may be, they wanted multiple potteries involved so there would be no interruption in any of their orders. So if you look at these pieces, we have 7-inch plates, here's a fruit cup and a saucer. They're going to be marked with that ivory color back stamp. But each one of these has an initial underneath, indicating the pottery that was involved. So if we look at this letter from 1927, it talks a little bit about a redesign to the teacup handle, and it mentions the initial potteries that were involved in this production of Barbara Jane. It's dated, let's see, February 11th, 1927. It's addressed to W.E. Wells, that's William Edwin Wells. It's authored by W.A. O'Grady, William O'Grady, who is the purchasing agent at Quaker Oats. And they say, let's see, we are glad to note from your letter of February 9th that you are going right ahead with the new handle for our cups. We are anxious that the other potteries shall change over to the new handle just as quickly as possible. And we would like to have you furnish them block molds for the new handle just as soon as possible. Will you please furnish the following potteries? So here we get to see the initial ones involved. the Edwin M. Knowles China Company of Newell, West Virginia, the Knowles Taylor Knowles Company of East Liverpool, Ohio, the Crescent China Company of Alliance, Ohio, the Sebring Pottery of Sebring, Ohio, this is their shape, Barbara Jane, the Atlas Globe China Company of Cambridge, Ohio, and the Owen China Company of Minerva, Ohio. Now, some of these did not last in the production of Barbara Jane, and others had to take over. But we can look at these pieces again, and their markings. We see ivory color S, that would be Sebring. Ivory color L, that's Homer Laughlin. Ivory color LC, that would be Limoges, China. And ivory color K2, that is either Edwin M. Knowles or Knowles Taylor Knowles. I think it might be Knowles Taylor Knowles. So all four of these pieces came from different potteries, though they would have been given away in boxes of Mother's Oats, which is a Quaker Oats product, as you see here in the picture from this advertisement. So one last thing to mention about this ware, and that is pieces that were less than perfect, that were not used in the promotion. Some of them, which were thirds, went to Woolworths. And we see this memo dated May 20th, 1929. They have thirds that are decorated with pattern number W92 on the Barbara Jane shape. Now, I've never seen an example of this, so I don't know what W92 looks like. Though if you were to find any of these decorated thirds, they're going to have that ivory color mark, because that would have been the first thing done to them. They would have been marked under the glaze. And they note that there are 5-inch plates, which would actually be 7-inch. You got to remember these are trade sizes. Fruit cups, oatmeals, and teacups only, no saucers. So there should be other decorations out there on Barbara Jane pieces other than the one that you see here, which is pretty standard. This is not very easy to find. I'm going to be doing other videos on the Quaker Oats promotions that Homer Laughlin and other potteries did. In fact, the next one that I'll do will be on Trellis, and then we'll Tudor Rose, and then Carnival, and so on. But this one, of all of them, it's not the easiest to find. Most of them are going to have that L marking for Homer Laughlin, but you will find several others. I believe that Taylor Smith & Taylor might have been involved in this as well, as Jerry Lefevre, who collects Homer Laughlin and has written articles about Homer Laughlin, has some with a T in the back stamp. So that's a little bit about Barbara Jane, and next time we'll look at Trellis.